guys, what's up? It's Darius KomodoDragonJesus Vita making a video for PokerVIP. So today I'm going to be starting a little bit of a series on 888. Going to be playing the 100 No Limit Snap games. It'll be a little bit different from what you may have seen me playing in the past because these are going to be the fast fold games. They're also pretty cool because there is no HUD allowed on the snap games. So it makes for a situation with a lot less information against a lot of players. So hopefully we can have fun with that. As usual, it's going to be a live play video. So I'm clicking these buttons right here and let's get the action going. Okay, so we got a limper. That's always fun. I'm going to give this guy the little fishbones note there. And so already I attempt to isolate on the button. We get a call from the small blind and get a call from the limper as well. I'm just going to start this one off with a check behind. It's not a pot I really want to inflate, and this is a texture that would probably typically get check raised a lot. So we're going to try to keep this pot small here, but I do have a pair and a draw to what is very likely going to be the nuts. So I'm not going to fold the turn, and I improved a trip, so I will not be folding river either. Just going to put in I guess a medium to large size bet here. I guess we'll go like 18 into 24 on the river. I expect a 7 will call this, if that's something he happens to have. I could probably bet slightly bigger against a jack. So my ace jack, I decide to check back the flop. This is going to be one of the crabbier aces I have here. So I want to give this guy a little bit of rope to hang himself rather than just going bet, bet, bet. And he goes for the check on the turn, and I'm just going to go for a value on the river. What is half pot here? 28. Let's go. Let's be greedy. Try to get that extra dollar. Go for 29.25. Looks like we end up chopping ace jack for ace jack. That's probably the best hand I ever expect him to show up with there. When he plays it so passively, though, who knows? Maybe he's just a passive player. Ace 6 will happily be defending blind versus blind. It's the same guy once again. And he decides to go 3/4 pot on this board. I have a gut shot to the nuts, plus an ace high and an overcard, so I will not be folding. Not yet, anyways. And okay, not quite the nuts, but it's pretty close, and it's also the open-ended straight flush draw, so that's fine. I'm not going to raise here. I'm just going to let him barrel off. Oh, so close to the straight flush. And yeah, we'll expect to see probably a fair amount of bluffs here, some flushes, some straights. I think we do all right. And ace 3 is a bluff right on. With my ace 3, this is typically a good board for both myself and a button caller. The button caller is half stacked, so not entirely sure what he's going to be doing. I am actually just going to start this one off with a check. Probably would have ended up being a check fold, depending on what his bet size would have been, because this hand doesn't have too much going on for it. And let's just kind of continue with that plan. On boards that are this coordinated into two people, I don't tend to be bluffing too much. And guys, I did time out there. I feel like I time out a lot more when making these videos than I actually do, like streaming or anything. Sorry about that. I don't mean to do it. But if anything, that means that, I'm just distracted by all the things that there are to talk about, right? We can hope, right? Okay, king queen on the button is an excellent hand. And I'll try to keep this going at a pace that 1 brings in a lot of hands and 2 doesn't have me timing out everywhere. because you don't want that. Getting 5 to 1, I'm going to call the king 6. King queen will open that as well. And while I do have a king high on an ace ace deuce board, I would have folded that flop to the c-bet 3-way. I can't fold to the min bet, and I'll just be check folding with the king queen. So Donkey Robber threw in a min bet on the turn. That's really weird. If he threw in another like really small bet on the river, I'd probably call him, but when he pots it, I think we just have to dump the king high. And I'm actually just going to check my king queen one more time. I think on a lot of runouts we don't get more than one street of value here if we start betting on the turn. And this just lets me bet pretty big on the river and just basically assume I have the best hand every single time. It'll be really weird if I get raised on this 4. I guess the only hand that would really make sense for anyone to have would be pocket 4s, but flushes just are not going to happen. And this is the spot where, because I checked a few times already in the hand, and I bet big here, people are kind of going to assume you're bluffing a fair bit, and you're definitely going to see calls from 10s and queens, that's a given, but also from stuff like, 8s and 7s, and, maybe even stuff looser than that. Looking here, got called by the 10-5. Yeah, I think that's pretty standard. Right, raise and re-raise, pocket 4s are out. And we have a limp blind versus blind. That's fun. I think king 9 is definitely a good enough hand to start raising it up, so we're going to go up to 4. If I see that players are, using a strong limping strategy, blind versus blind, like some people are picking up these days, and sometimes they're going to be limp re-raising, then, well, I'll still raise them all day, every day with king 9. But I'll try to be a little more cautious about it. But if I just see people limping who I assume are, going to be weaker players, I'm just going to raise them with a very wide range of hands. All right, I got pocket 8s on the button. I'm going to start off with a flat there. Looks like we end up seeing the flop 3-way. Not a bad flop. And when it gets checked to me, I am going to bet. I'm just going to start with 650 into 9. And I'm also going to overcall with the king 10. Getting a very good price here for the min raise. And wow, what a flop. All right, guys, flop and dreams. We've got the nut flush draw plus the pair. And this is actually a very tempting one to check back. Oops, why am I pressing that button? And you know what? I think I am. And it just gets better. So I'm going to start off with a bet here. I guess on the small side, because everyone has shown a heck of a lot of weakness, we can even go just half pot here. Although my hand is monstrously strong, if other players were showing strength, then I might want to just use large bet sizing, expecting to get a lot of value out of some sort of a strong ace that might have bet the flop and then check the turn because the second pair paired. But it's not really the case. When everybody checks around, I think overall the ranges are going to be pretty weak, and betting small is just overall going to get more value. And I'm going to do the same thing on the river. I just go for 8 into just under 16. And I don't see how an ace could possibly fold to this. if he ends up getting to the river with one. Always gotta have fun, look at the hand, and yeah, ace-9. So this is something that I'll be doing on 888 more so than on other sites, because there's no HUDs. There's going to be a lot of unknown players, so typically like a board like ace queen 10 is going to be really good for the pre-flop raiser. You know, I'm going to have all the pocket aces, queens, 10s, ace queens, and you know, depending on players' tendencies, they might not even have stuff like king jacks. People might just 3-bet all those. But I know nothing about this guy, so instead I'm going to be on the check fold plan with the deuces. Yes, he min-bet, and I'm sad that I'm folding to the min-bet, but I think that's going to be the correct line once I check. I get 3-bet by a potentially recreational player with the queen 3. I'm just going to fold that one. I flop 2 pair. You know what? I am going to bet this 2 pair, though I don't think that checking is completely unreasonable. The cool thing about this 2 pair is that even though I had bottom 2 pair, because there were no re-raises pre-flop, it's very unlikely that anybody has definitely ace king, and it's fairly unlikely that people have ace queen. So even though I have bottom 2 pair, it kind of plays the same as top 2 pair. I'll be checking to attempt to get to showdown with pocket 6s. And my ace king will be starting with a 3-bet. I'm going to go to 10 here, which is a little larger. We are deeper. We're about 145 blinds deep. And ace king is an excellent hand. Ace king suited especially is an excellent hand to have at that stack depth. All right, excuse the pop-up, guys. It's the pop-up that you gotta have to put notes and tags on people, and I like to give out those fish bones quite liberally. So this is the same player that limp folded to me when I had the king 9, I believe. So I'm going to keep raising him up, just see if he'll eventually start being sticky or if he's just going to do that every single time. And if he just continues to do that, then it'll evolve to the point where I'm just going to be raising him to $4 with any 2 cards, and I'd expect to make a lot of money doing so. So raise it up with king 8 and get called twice. Now I think in general this isn't going to be a very good flop for the small blinds calling range. You know, assuming he has a fairly standard calling range and is not just, you know, playing 50% of hands. But into 2 people, I'm just going to start this one with a check back. If the board were a little drier, you know, perhaps like without the flush draw out there, I think I could c-bet and take that one down at a decent frequency. Both queen 10 and king 10 are going to start off with raises. Queen 10 on the dry board, I think half pot c-bet is going to do really well here. And again, min raised, and I mean, no matter what he's doing with this I don't like his play. The question is, how do I continue? And it's kind of a pain to continue. But guys, odds are good. I have a gut shot and an overcard, so not folding is going to be the game plan. And I'm going to check to him, let him continue betting. If he wants to, the 8 basically kills at least a few of my outs. So we're going to give it to him on the turn. Okay, I got a 3-bet by Razy21, who, if I recall correctly, is a viewer of the stream, so shout out to Razy. I'm going to play a pot with you. Pocket 5s is going to call. We're 200 blinds deep. That's not a flop I'm looking for, and it's probably just going to be a fold on the flop. Yeah, I think that's fine. Pocket 10s, when it gets min 3-bet like this, I'm just going to 4-bet it for value. No idea, what kind of range Joe Dinelli is doing this with, but I think 10s very likely does well. And then this is a board where I'm going to be c-betting small, so I'm going to start off with about $12. For 2 reasons, I'm betting very small there. One, because it's a very dry board, and I typically like to bet smaller on this texture. And the other reason is because it was, I guess, technically a 4-bet pot pre-flop, so it wouldn't take very large bets at all to just go bet and get all the money in. I'm going to overcall here with ace deuce suited, hope to flop a flush draw. Looks like that's not the case. And you know what, this guy just pots it into 2 people. And while I did flop top pair, I feel like a bit of a nit doing this, but I think I'm just gonna fold. Like if he's gonna, even if he's bluffing here, if he takes like 2 aggressive lines in a row, I'll be folding to that regardless. So I think I'm just gonna fold the flop. Yeah, I mean that is the same guy that just did the min 3-bet against me in the pocket 10s hand. So there's a fairly good chance he's just might not know what he's doing. But I'm gonna go on the cautious side for now. 9-7 offsuit. I don't like folding to min bet, but when a min bet is a half pot size bet, it's a half pot size bet, and calling half pot size bets with 9 high typically isn't going to go very well, especially out of position. Ooh, okay. Fold him Furley, decides to lead, gets 1 call from the big blind. I think the best play for me is to just call behind. I do not want to be raising here. And the board double pairs, so my hand, like my outs are potentially dead. There's a very good chance that one of these 2 players does have a full house. So I guess I'm folding. Yeah, get money goes all in. I get led into on the 8-4-3 with the ace-4, and I am just going to be raising this one. We're going to go up to $8. While I do have a bit of showdown value there, like a pair of 4s on a lot of runouts is definitely not a hand I want to be calling down with. So I kind of want to treat my small pair just as a little bit of a bluff there. And as usual, we see, the guy leading out doesn't have much, so, that was a fine result. Not a great flop for the ace-4, but with my backdoor flush draw outs and my overcard, I think it's a c-bet. Pocket deuce is getting an excellent price, is going to call on the button. This is Joe Danelli. We're going to give him the fish bones as well. Set here. Oh my god. I was just about to say a set here would be very nice, and there it is. And now, okay, he min bets, sure. I have to raise this, guys. I can't let him just get to the turn for a min bet. We're going to go up to $5 here. The min bet could potentially be weakness. It could potentially be him going for a min bet 3-bet, or he could, well, literally be doing anything. We're seeing crazy stuff from him. Unfortunately, you get no action there. It's always sad to get a set and not get any action. Ace Queen of Clubs is a wonderful hand on the button. And on this board, I could see betting and I could see checking back. I think if it was different positions and ranges were a little bit tighter, I would like betting more. That way, maybe not my ace so much, but my queen blocker would be a lot more significant against the best kings that he could have. But in a blind versus buttons scenario, there's a decent chance he has every single king, so the fact that I block king queen isn't all that significant. Let's just check it down all the way, see how we do, and we beat Jack 9. That's awesome. Deuce 4, I'm not going to fold just yet because, you know, if this ends up going multi-way, we could end up playing it. And that is not the case. Get out of here, Deuce 4. So 7-6 offsuit with two potentially weaker players in the blind. It's going to be on the looser side, but I'm going to do it. It's actually probably the worst hand I raise. And then we get into this little bit of a silly spot where I get raised to less than $8. And suddenly the odds are good. You know what, guys, I am going to call, but I'm not that thrilled about it. I flopped a pair, though. That's a good start. He decides to lead for about 80% pot. I'm not particularly happy about that, but I will just start with a call because folding a pair on such a board is just going to mean I'm folding way too much. If he continues to barrel on this turn, I'm probably just going to fold, though. And yeah, it looks like he does. Starting with the continuation bet with the 4-5, with basically 5 high and some backdoors. Looks like it gets through, that's always fun. King 6 against a min raise, will call. It's not the flop I'm looking for, though. I think we're just on the check fold plan there. And of course I say that and I get bet into for $1. I am not folding for $1. with an overcard and some backdoor draws. Hit the overcard. I could have led on the turn. I think that would have been decent after his min bet on the flop. But once I check, it goes for a check call. And I will be check calling the river as well. And he goes half pot, guys. He can have every better pair, every better two pair, straights, sets, everything. But I think after his weird play on the flop, I can't be folding this one. We'll just see what he shows up with. And he shows up with a pair of fives on the river. Fun times. Here guys, monster hand, pocket queens. Also not bad hand, ace-4 suited. We note on next pillar. Okay. Isn't this a fun note to have, guys? Knit but does weird stuff pre. Okay. It's actually a very vague note, but I actually remember the exact scenario that's from. And because I think he's a little bit of a nit, that's why he's got that little purple tag on him here. I'll definitely be raising anytime he's in the blinds very, very liberally. That's one of the things I've noticed playing these snap games. Like, I've played Zoom games on Stars, and I've played the snap games here on 888, and there are a lot more very, very, very tight players on 888. You can't have the HUD going, but of course you can, import the hands into Poker Tracker and, look at them after your session. And there's a non-insignificant amount of players who are playing like between 14 and 18% VPIP, who are basically just folding their way into big hands, and I assume still making money because people are paying them off when they have big hands. And that comes in part from the fact that if there are no HUDs on the tables, then if you don't put in the work off the tables, you don't really know if somebody is playing 30% of hands or 60% of hands or 15% of hands. So I 3-bet with the 9-7, got cold called, and then got called by the original raiser as well. On this board, I'm just going to check give up into two players. I don't think I have the fold equity. Facing a small bet on the turn. I still don't think I continue here. There's the chance I'm drawing dead. Also, several of my outs are tainted with the diamonds. So we're just going to fold that one. Going to go up to $8 with ace king. Ace queen's going to raise it up. And oh my god, the big hands just keep on coming. Okay, pocket queens. That's on the raise plan as well. I'm going to go up to $9. And okay, ace queen one more time. Gonna go up to $9. Actually, against the same guy. Frankly, I'm not very fond of all options with the sevens. I think I'm going to 3-bet. And when I get 4-bet with the ace queen, people don't 4-bet the lightest on this site, but I will be continuing. I'll be calling a third pot c-bet on this flop if he makes it and folding to anything larger. Not a great flop for the sevens. I'm going to start off with a check. If he bets, it's going to be a check fold. This is a board texture I don't really expect to have a lot of fold equity, especially if he's going to be floating me with hands like ace queen and ace jack. Because if we think about the type of hands that he wants to be calling like pre-flop, there's going to be a lot of broadways, like a lot of suited broadways, all of which will have a pair or a gut shot. If his good ace highs aren't folding and his pairs, at least like 9 or better, aren't folding either, then I really don't think we have much fold equity at all. I will be value betting my ace queen for a small sizing. I'm even going to go less than half pot here. I'm going to go just going to go 17 here. And I do intend on folding this to a raise. I think if I bet large, then I'm basically only getting called by like ace queen, ace king, or better. But if I bet small there, then maybe I have a chance of getting called by something worse. And especially if he used a hand like, we'll say ace 4, for example, as a 4-bet bluff, we're certainly getting called by something like that for that sizing. All right, guys, the min bet barrage continues. I have a pair. It's now a pair and a flush draw. I'm going to continue not folding it. It's now 3 of a kind. That's awesome. He checks. If he's playing a flush this way, then that is, absurd. But I do believe that he could have some stuff even as strong as a pair of kings. So I'm actually going to bet very large relative to the pot for value there, just $5. And he's on the snap fold plan, which is unfortunate. Deuces are going to defend against 3-bet in position. I will be defending all my pairs, especially when we have that little added stack depth. And this is another flop I'm just going to have to fold. A couple more very nice hands. We got pocket tens on the left. That's of course starting with raise. Get a decent amount of action. I've seen this guy playing a lot of hands. He's also not full stacked. We're going to give him the fish bones there. And 3-way, I'm going to start this one off with a c-bet. I don't necessarily mind just taking it down here. This is really weird. I'm not going to fold to it, at least not yet. I would expect this to be a draw or a bluff more often than it would be a queen. So we'll see how it goes. I'll very likely check call the turn, though he could bet like 25 here and get me to fold. And instead he bets 8. Really not sure what he's doing this with, but I'm going to continue by not folding. And he ends up having queen jack. All right. Not the way I'd advise anybody to play queen jack, but that's okay. And we can even be a little bit thankful there that he just bet very small on the turn, not charging me a lot. Start off the raise with queen 9. King 6 is going to be a fold though. So it looks like pocket fives is getting a fairly significant amount of action. And we get squeezed, and like that's not incredible, but he also made it a fairly small squeeze, like relative to the amount of money that's already in the pot. And we're also almost 120 deep, so I'm going to peel here. Now, what really sucks is if one of these two players shoves. Hopefully Donkey Robber is not thinking about that, because if they're going to do that at a high frequency, then my call is just not going to do well at all. After it checks around on this flop, I'm going to start betting my Jack 8 for value. I think like best case scenario goes call, and then we flop quads. That'd be nice. Okay, so I guess that's, second best scenario. Into two players with a hand like pocket fives, meaning a hand that only has 2 outs when behind. I'm not going to be bluffing on this board, but I'm very happy to see that free turn card. $5 into 38 is sadly enough to get me to fold fives. Yes, it is. I could also do something weird and raise here, but I think that would just be on the spewy side. Blind versus blind, I'm actually going to bet half pot when checked to on the Jack 9 board. And King 6, as long as there isn't a squeeze, I'll be overcalling, because I have a fairly strong suited hand. It's not exactly the flop I'm looking for, though, so it'll be on the check fold plan. If it checks around, I actually think now if it checks around, this is a decent spot to bluff. I think it's important to bet twice here very often. Or if you're going to bet, then bet twice. Because I think that on that 3 turn, anybody who checked at least a good ace high on the flop is very likely going to be calling with their 2 overcards plus gut shot. So I don't think you have much fold equity against an ace for 1 bet, but you very likely do against 2. And when it checks around on that flop, it's very unlikely that anybody really has a pair, or if they have a pair, it's probably not a strong one. So I think I could take it down at a fairly reasonable frequency. Huh. I'm actually going to fold my ace 10. And I clicked fold and watch here, guys, because I kind of want to see what these two are up to. This player threw in a very small 3-bet, and then Xpilla decided to cold call it. Now, I folded my ace 10 because I think that's a hand I'm going to get into a lot of trouble with. Basically, anytime somebody has an ace, I'm going to be outkicked. And my 10 runs into a lot of overpair problems. The fact that my hand isn't suited means I'm not going to make very many nutted hands. And against a potential tight 3-better and a, I guess, tight but does weird stuff, cold call, I think I'm probably not doing very well there, even though the odds were decent. Ace King flops top pair, top kicker. I'm just going to start that one off with 3/4 pot for value. And looks like Xpilla deciding to put the rest of the money in. Last $27 to Hunter, and he hasn't snap called yet. He ends up folding. Wow. All right, so Xpilla clearly cold calling with something very strong there. Could be something like Ace King, could be something like 8s, 10s, kings or aces, which all seem like they could take that line reasonably often. Yeah, all right, good to know. Let's jump back into the action on the right. Queen 10 is going to be a very happy raise blind versus blind. We got Jazzers limping. I've seen him limp a few times. I'm going to attempt to throw in the isolation raise. Or just the take it down pre-flop raise. I could live with that too. And King Jack, I guess I'll throw in a 3-bet here as well. That's not my favorite 3-bet in the world. Do you see this guy doesn't have a full stack though, which means he gets the fish bones. Throws in the little click it back. 4-bet, I'm not going to be folding to this, even though I really hate my hand when getting into this situation, but because he doesn't have a full stack, I kind of assume he could be doing random stuff, and when he makes it so small, I want to continue pretty wide. And now basically I've gotten myself into a spot where there is $64 left behind, there's 33 in the pot, I have top pair, there is basically zero chance I'm folding my hand on a dry run out. The question is, what do I want to do here? And he decided to check to me, and I think I just want to throw in a very small bet. I'm going to go with third pot here, so we're just going to go for 11. Get led into by Jazzers, who calls from the small blind. He does seem loose so far, but I don't know. It's, you know, most players aren't loose enough to be playing 8-4 here. So sets in like Jack 8 are the only hands I'm really concerned about. Other than that, I'm doing very well, so I'm going to start off with a raise. I'm going to continue with another small bet. We're going to go for 24. I guess. Let's go 23 on the turn. And this is just, it sets up for a really silly bet size, like the amount of money left on the river. But I'm just trying to get this guy to inch his money into the pot. If he ends up having a slow play, you know, he's getting all the money in here. Like I said at the beginning, there's no chance I'm folding. And we had very few outs on the river, which is unfortunate, but definitely can't fold there. Jazzers decides to lead for a pot size bet again. And I think with a hand this strong, I'm just going to shove. Expecting to only lose to the 6 combos of sets. And I find it really odd that he ends up folding there, because any value hand that he would have wanted to, you know, pot the turn with is surely pot committed. And any draw that he potted the turn with is also pot committed. And I guess that leaves like pure bluffs. I'm gonna throw in just a small 3-bet with the ace-3. When stack sizes get smaller, we can get away with smaller 3-bets. Then a flop of gut shot, which is nice. Just going to start this one off with $8 on the flop. A check back is also reasonable on this board, but I think it's dry enough. Mr. Hunter really shouldn't have many 4s or 5s in his range, so that basically leaves 10s. And okay, all the action happening at once. I think another 44 behind is a little more than I'd like to shove into. So I'm going to call here, and I guess we'll reevaluate on the turn, see what he does. He has a pot size bet left. If he shoves, it's an easy fold. Actually, for most bet sizes, it's just going to be a... hold on, I got the double gutter. This is actually pretty close. for a second there, I didn't see the double gutter. Okay, so the question is, it's a pot size bet, which means I need 33% equity. I'm just going to sit out here. I don't think my... First of all, there should be like 0 bluffs that he has. I don't know, maybe he shows up with something weird. I also have the overcard, but I don't think it gives me enough extra equity. I think I have like 20-something% there tops. And that's just not enough to call the pot size bet. All right, but you know what I'm going to do here, guys? I'm going to start to wrap up the video. I'm going to click out this sit out next big blind button on each table. Of course, when all the action hands are happening, every single one of them, end the video. Small 3-bet once again against Get Money. He started with $20. I had 0 intention of folding to this shove, and we're ahead. That's always nice. We got to dodge a few outs on the river, and that's a dodge. Sweet. Okay, so I get a 3-bet by Ted with 7. I'm not going to be calling ace-6, so it's a spot where I'm either going to be 4-betting or folding. I think against a player I know nothing about, other than the fact that he's, potentially, a casual player here, I think it's just going to end up being fold. I think 4-betting or 4-bet bluffing there just will get me into a lot of trouble. And against a middle position open, I'm not going to be 3-betting my ace-jack offsuit. And looks like that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, if you got any comments, questions, anything like that, make sure to drop them in the comment box below. This has been Darius Vita, aka KomodoDragonJesus, making a video for PokerVIP. Thanks for watching, guys.